We open on movie Michael stressing per usual over script that changes on an hourly basis. How does one even begin to vocalize how something like Space Jam 2 happens? Most of the knee-jerk internet got why this happened entirely wrong. New sentence. Space Jam 2, a film directed by Spike Lee's cousin, defies explanation and practical. The film studios are a condensed and maligned buffet of greedy corporate ball gags that have been doing a heist on their collective creative workforce for years. The Warner Brothers were Polish immigrants that came to America in the late 1800s. Brothers Wansel, Warren, and Wonskaloser obviously anglicized their names to Harry, Albert, Sam, and Jack. America, baby. Oh. Okay, Space Jam 2 is emblematic of a lot that is upside down wrong in Hollywood right now. I hold this movie up as an albatross that I can't quite shake from my throat. I love the people involved in this movie. It is borderline impossible to research what actually happened behind the scenes with this film because studio meddling, and of course changing directors right after it started filming. This is as close as I get to an autopsy without access to the body. I am going to attempt to illustrate nuanced problems that escalate over time. Hopefully by the end of this we will all be much more knowledgeable of how the studio system chews through talent because their actions convey that art is an empty money-making endeavor that comes from nowhere. Almost certainly more happened here than you realize. Everything is fine.
Keep making content.
Also, stick around to the end of this one. I promise what you think you know is far more complicated than you realize. You build a flimsy, rushed house of cards, don't be all that surprised when it comes crashing down. Looking at you, everybody. Today, we put Space Jam 2 to rest. Prepare for an arresting tale spanning almost 2 decades and ending with a quiet neon whisper into the breeze. First, we start with Michael Jordan, someone with incalculably large shoes to fill. So buckle up, it's time to go back to 1996.
Let's play some basketball.
Michael Jordan, by all comparable metrics, is having a banner 1996. And he's already shot a movie directed by Joe Pytka. Space Jam was a bit of strange fruit. It was on a mission to see if Looney Tunes plus Michael Jordan are two great tastes that taste great together. And it would also answer if a special effects extravaganza starring these two brands would lead to dollar signs at the box office. To wit, Space Jam is still the highest grossing basketball movie of all time in the United States. That really isn't that dreamy of a prize when Air Bud and Semi-Pro are snugly in the conversation, but that's not the goal. The cool few billion in merchandising after the fact was the goal. Warner set about immediately on a sequel spinoff the moment Space Jam appeared it could sell toys. I'm sure it's fine, and tens of thousands of jobs aren't on the... I'm sorry, what? Oh my. Okay, well... These degenerate gamblers forever raising the table stakes when all they have is a pair of tens. I know that metaphor wasn't for everyone, but some poker player out there just had a moment. Increase the heist music! Plan 1. Late 1990s. Incorrectly boast to yourself that the success of Space Jam wasn't just because of Michael Jordan, but the Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes Back in Action, a 1999 film starring Brendan Fraser, was the first of the Space Jam sequel spin-off, whatever, subgenre. Multiple spin-offs spin off from this anchor point, so freeze this moment in your mind. back in action, in production, many more things about to be. But this film has a lot of studio meddling. At one point, Warner Brothers bringing in 25 uncredited gag writers to punch up the jokes in the script with some moxie. You know where this is going. The director of this film famously decried the lack of freedom he had under the WB regime, and get ready for the messy part. This film is a loss for the studio, and Brendan Fraser gets to unfairly carry some of that weight. Basically through no real fault of his own. Also the super friggin' coolest, but did you know? Brendan Fraser is also the voice of the Tasmanian Devil in this movie. You guys had your chance to give him an Oscar. You blew it. It doesn't fare so great at the box office, and Back in Action is considered such a disaster, there is no follow-up Looney Tunes movie until the second Space Jam in 2022. To put it straight, Back in Action flopped so hard that it made it impossible to make Looney Tunes spin-offs while they were developing, let's just say 3 other Looney Tunes spin-offs. Let's talk about those. Let's rack our brains together, studio dorks. What about a movie built around someone like Clint Eastwood or Tiger Woods? Sure, it's 2003, and those are 2 people that kids are just famously on about at all hours of the day. And then a better idea steps forward. What about putting Jackie Chan in a spy movie and call it, get ready for this, Spy Jam? Why is jam the word we decided to keep? Shh. And for what it's worth, Jackie enters actual negotiations for this film.
Shut up.
I didn't say anything. This plan hasn't even failed yet.
I didn't even care. Let's get another boat in the water. Plan 3, let's go.
Plan 3, concurrent. I had to multiple source Plan 3 to realize that any living human actually was like, this is a good idea. Anyway, at WB, we're all getting so excited about this potential NFTing of the Looney Tunes universe, so we pitched Jeff Gordon on Get Ready for This. Jesus Christ, no! Okay, they pitched Jeff Gordon a movie called Race Jam. I quit, I'm out, I'm done. They were huffing paint in the 2000s. Why, what? Unsurprising to no one, plans 2 and 3 quietly fizzle out, and many roles in leadership change at the studio. It's 2003. Who are the kids into? Well, 1999 created one of the biggest moments in sports history. But not in the traditional way that people have looked at sports in this country. I'm looking at you, Tony Hawk. This dude, at this moment in time, is one of the most popular video game franchises on the planet and one of the most popular sports stars. This one, on paper, did make a lot of sense. There was one preliminary meeting with Tony Hawk, and down the line there's a second meeting with most of a script and some storyboards. This Tony Hawk movie was moving forward pretty fast and was probably going to happen. But when you're binge gambling, your losses catch up to you eventually. Okay, so they're planning all this stuff, and Looney Tunes Back in Action, Plan 1, comes out and fails to perform, ending Plan 4 and Tony Hawk space kickflips with the Looney Tunes is put on ice. This whole ordeal went so bad for the studio, Warner doesn't even touch animation again until the Lego Movie. I'm doing this episode because somehow Space Jam is a film so influential it caused a studio to overdevelop a franchise and then blame that franchise for its own demise, wasting untold sums of money along the way to develop bets they would eventually sheep on anyway. A lose-lose-lose situation. We've always been here. Dream big and throw money in holes.
That's how you make a picture, kiddo.
Sorry. If it sounds like I'm mad about this, this has a sizable impact on the industry of film animation for close to a decade. So it's a point worth underlining. The cold reality at the bottom of all of these plans is that no one would accept that Michael Jordan simply didn't want to do a Space Jam sequel, so WB didn't get one. You convince yourself he wasn't the successful piece of Space Jam when he was the most recognizable face on planet Earth at that moment. When all options have been exhausted and the Looney Tunes already fading from the public consciousness, Space Jam 2: The Jam Jam is laid to rest. Until they dug it up, baby! Hi, hello, Film Michael here. If you like what we do and want to support the channel, there are several ways you can do that. You could sign up for our Patreon page at patreon.com/movieswithmikey. Cool perks like access to our Discord server where we post daily updates. If you would rather a tangible item, we run our own merch store called Catawampus.inc, and we fulfill all of our orders ourselves out of our garage. Between now and Sunday, July 9th, you can get free shipping within the United States on any purchase by using the code SPACEJAM. Space Jam! And if you want the earliest possible access to our videos, there's no better way than to sign up for Nebula. As a Nebula First channel, all of our videos come out there a month before they release on YouTube, and they're completely ad-free. I wrote a love letter to BattleBots, and you can go watch it right now. You'll also get access to video libraries from great creators like Patrick Willems, Cinema Wins, and Lindsay Ellis. Head over to go.nebula.tv/filmjoy to sign up for just $30 a year. Your support is the only thing that keeps us going, and we can't thank you enough for all of the love you've shown over the years. Now back to the video. For whatever it's worth, I think the Tony Hawk and Jackie Chan movies could have worked. It's not that Space Jam 2 is a worse movie than the first one. They both have what could generously be called pacing issues. My issue is honestly that it's the same movie, but about 40% more shameless commercial. That's my issue. It is a product in every single way, and it is illustrative of a lot that is going on right now in Hollywood. The movie tells on itself repeatedly.
Hello, I'm Al G. Rhythm. And as you might have guessed, I am an algorithm here at Warner Brothers, the studio behind all the classics.
So here's the Shyamalan twist. The director of Space Jam 2, Malcolm D. Lee, directed Undercover Brother.
Excuse me, sir, this is a restricted good. God.
Hey, you Jeepster. Lance.
Nice pants.
Thank you.
Undercover brother?
Undercover brother. What happened to you?
He had sex with a white girl, that's what.
Oh, was it everything I dreamed?
Your Honor, I rest my case, thank you. And Malcolm replaced the previous director right as filming began. Sometimes you do a job. I think people on the ground did heroic work here. Warner Brothers, hi, hello. We're going to be talking about you a bit today. Buckle in. Movies, you made quite a few of them. Good ones, in fact. We live in a cynical time where this channel is fighting to stay alive, so it's time to overanalyze the current state of the industry I vehemently try to celebrate. So here's a quick refresher on this film. 1. LeBron James, as a child, is bequeathed a Game Boy at a very gentle age. It distracts him during the formation of a base memory in basketball, and instead of going to therapy about this for his entire life, he lives a life of hating video games. Hey, kids like video games, right? Yeah, they still do? Okay. Let's make a whole movie demonizing them. 2. In present time, one of LeBron's 2 sons is a fan of video games, so in the shorthand of this film, he creates his own video game in his free time that is the most polished thing I've ever seen. Ignore the sin film fact that clearly no child could have done this. Embrace the fact that LeBron's reactions to his son having interests that he is excelling at is to destroy his progeny's dreams and decide his future for him. You chose to be in this movie. 3. Villain is introduced. Also, he's prepping the film studio side of IP for a fire sale.
You'll be the king of Warner Brothers. That's the power of Warner 3000.
Okay, so in the grand scheme of the film, LeBron is fighting his own child. And this all takes place in the magical realm of the Serververse, aka Warner Brothers' Big Day Off. That's the whole movie. All because his kid wants to go to E3 design camp, and I don't have time in this video to unpack that. I'm not sure that Space Jam 2 is even technically a basketball movie, as they aren't even playing basketball, they're playing Dom Ball, the game his son No, stop the dings! This feels like a film of competent direction succumbing to the thumb of a lot of voices that don't necessarily agree on what they want. I earnestly don't say this lightly, but Space Jam 2 has an optics problem. What does it want to say, so to speak? When as a media company you are valuing up all the IP in your catalog using a kid's film? Did I get all that? Gosh, I wonder when Space Jam 2 came out. Well, that's odd. When did Warner Brothers merge with Discovery? Okay, I swear to God if you don't stop with the dings. Curious. Let me illustrate this point differently. WB brought Batman to a fucking basketball game and didn't let him play. You will wear this L forever. The first Space Jam ends with Michael Jordan realizing to beat a cartoon, he must become one. The second movie scolds you for enjoying things that don't correlate directly to your basketball fundamentals. The lesson to learn, oh, maybe my kids have their own interests that could be supported? Nice job, Bron. How many ways can I restate this? This is a film about abolishing fun. Space Jam 1 worked because it was a once-in-a-lifetime team-up. Space Jam, A New Legacy has a lot to do, so to speak, as a film. No kingdom can endure two kings. That's kind of what a merger is, I suppose. Does everybody get what I'm doing? Like making a joke about the two kings of basketball, but also throbbing on a metaphor about how disparate companies coming together to compete with Netflix, a movie at war with itself. This was a studio of risk takers. What then of Warner Brothers and their Warner sister Dot?
Media is difficult. How are you going to, where is media and what are you going to do with this great new shiny object you have?
Well, first, it is a little bit surreal. This is a fantastic collection of assets.
It's time to get into the Warner Brothers deep lore, because only then can we look at where we truly are in our current unimaginable sanctuary of endless content. A century and a dime later, the dream's still kicking. Somewhere something got lost along the journey. Imagine running a business for 100 years. Google removed Don't Be Evil after like 10. In the year 1923, 100 years before this year, 2023, was the year that the Warners incorporated their dream, 1923. But my friends, our story begins much earlier in 1905. Allow me to scribble a bit in our scene. The United States is a different place. Movie theaters aren't really a thing that exists in a way that would be familiar to someone right now. You'd hear sentences like,
Let's head to the Nickelodeon and check out one of those film things. I hear the horses move now.
hey, we just seen pictures move, and immediately money enters the frame and begins to distort it. Money, you say? Why, welcome to the party, renowned patent troll Thomas Edison. That man filed a patent every 10 damn days, and a great many of them weren't winners. But did you know Thomas Edison held the record for most patents ever filed, all the way up until the year of our Glorb 2003. He owned the record until 2003. Film studios were the independents once upon a time. Hollywood practically exists to be free of Thomas Edison basically owning the artistic medium of film forever. Who were our scrappy young mall rats? Well, buckle up, kiddos. Paramount Pictures, Universal Studios, 20th Century Fox, and would you believe it, the Warner Brothers. They set up at the edge of the world to fight the man that hath attempted to control them. What happens when you run a business for 100 years? Almost certainly your principles mutate. Today, Warner Brothers is one of three main brands in the HBO Warner Discovery David Zaslav regime, a company founded on "you don't get to own this," now bouncing around through the fingers of an uncaring corporate landscape. Large companies pyramid scheming the entirety of content across all platforms while forgetting one key element. Art is just going to invent new places to carve out a piece from the wealthy who wish to control it. That will never not be true of art. Oh shit, that's what Space Jam 2 was about though. Oh dip. I wonder if they were aware they made a movie about the dangers of computer-driven control of a long and storied film business. Theirs, in fact. Eventually leading to a purely cynical reconstruction of existing film elements in an attempt to drum up interest in selling all of your existing and aging intellectual property. I don't know off the top of my head, AT&T selling to Discovery in some sort of merger situation, for example. Don't hate a movie because it gently altered the lore that is for some reason central to your person. Hate a movie because it's been ruthlessly trampled by the machine. When a production is led by a committee sold to the highest bidder, you get Space Jam 2, which parades about all of the Warner Brothers' valuable IPs while simultaneously telling on themselves for being reckless, untrustworthy, and putting a maniacal AI in charge. Did I get all that?
You hate video games?
Almost like allowing all these companies to hyperform together into one pyramid-shaped Voltron was, perhaps, if I may, bad. I don't ever intend to lead into cynicism, but sometimes it is inevitable. You did this to you, bud. I've been slowly hinting that the film Space Jam 2 has been stuck in my head since release for a great litany of reasons. In the past few weeks, I've watched this movie 9 times. The week before that, 4. Which, if that doesn't tell you how much I love movies, I can't imagine anything will. And all cards on the table, I think Space Jam 2 is fine. I really do. It's a kids movie, and I generally roll my eyes at video essays destroying kids movies. It always feels cynical. But there is a growing darkness in Hollywood that I do not feel is being adequately addressed. Disney fired 75 workers from Pixar the morning I wrote this epilogue. The direction we are going in is that rich dorks own all the art and then proceed to throw away all of the artists. Companies that started 100 years ago to aggressively keep the money out of corporate hands are now the corporate hands. The never-ending march of time claims us all, I suppose. Let me put this all a completely different way. Space Jam 2 was the movie that informed me that Warner Brothers, a storied institution that is inseparable from the entire history of the filmed medium, losing itself in a desire to stay alive. Which, hey, I feel you, Warner Brothers, I truly do. I am also singling y'all out amongst a smuggler's cove of studios doing the same thing to their storied histories and bodies of work. So this episode was not and will never be specifically about Space Jam 2, but it became impossible for me to ignore that the studio decisions to get a movie made are not in any way focused on making something that people actually want. Movies, at least once upon a time, are supposed to be special. They're almost impossible to bring to fruition, and I absolutely appreciate the work that Lee and the crew did to pull off an undertaking this massive. But at the end of the day, Space Jam 2 will be an allegory illustrating the most cynical way to design a film. Oh, okay, well, at least until Warner Discovery removes it from their streaming platform for a tax write-off. I want credit for calling that one, by the way.